All right, sir, if you'll come right around this way for me and have a seat. And you can adjust that microphone as you need. Be sure and speak up loudly and into the microphone so everybody can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Corey,
Yes, sir. Is this working, Judge?
I think it is.
All right. Good morning, sir. Tell these jurors your name
Stephen Smith.
and in what city and county do you reside?
I live in Briceville, the county in the state of Florida.
What is your profession?
General contractor,
How long have you been a contractor?
20 plus years.
And the specific nature of your business, is it residential or commercial?
Commercial.
Let me take your attention back to November of 2012. Were you doing contracting work during that time period as well?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
In which area of Northeast Florida were you living at that time?
Still in the same place, Briceville.
May I take your attention to the Friday evening of November 23rd, 2012, between 7:30 and 7:45 p.m.? Was this particular Friday the day after Thanksgiving?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Did you work on that day?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Where did you work?
In Bay Meadows.
What type of work were you doing in Bay Meadows?
A renovation on a house in Deerwood.
And can you explain to the jury what Deerwood is?
Deerwood's a golf course community that's attached from Bay Meadows Road and Southside Boulevard.
Is there a gate gas station at the intersection of Bay Meadows and Southside Boulevard that is near the Deerwood subdivision?
Yes, ma'am, there is.
Approximately where is Deerwood in relation to that gate gas station?
Behind Gate Gas Station.
So would it be,
Behind the Gate Gas Station.
Yes.
The intersection of Southside and Bay Meadows is the Gate Gas Station. Behind that is Deerwood.
so it would be east of there?
Yes, ma'am, it would be.
Is that gate gas station in Jacksonville, Duval County, Florida?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
I'm going to show you a photograph, which is State's Exhibit 3, and we'll check the monitors to make sure it's on. And Judge, if you'll check with
see
the
it?
jury.
Yes, sir, I do. And yes, ma'am.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, do you see it on the monitors there? Everybody, okay? All right.
State's 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I apologize. I think I said 3, but it states 2. Can you show the jurors on this aerial photograph the route you took from Deerwood to the gate gas station? I know it doesn't depict the entire area, but can you show them that?
Yes, ma'am. It didn't connect.
If you keep your finger on there with good hard pressure, usually it works.
All righty. I got it sent to the Gate Gas Station. Is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
That's
okay.
good enough.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the driveway into which you pulled
Yes,
on
ma'am.
that evening?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Describe the vehicle that you were driving.
It's a black Toyota Tundra. A black Toyota Tundra.
Is that a truck?
It's, yes, ma'am, a larger truck.
A larger truck. Are you familiar with that intersection, having been working in that area?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you actually pull into the gate gas station?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
For what purpose?
To get a drink.
Okay. Can you show the jurors on aerial State's Exhibit 3, please, the entrance you used?
If you'll hit the little erase button.
It did. It did erase it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm
It did.
sorry. Let me go back and ask you the question. On State's 3, it really does show more of where the Deerwood area is. Can you please just show the jurors again, just briefly, the area travel?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then if you will please go to State's Exhibit 2 to show the close-up of the driveway. There we go. And show them again the driveway you entered. Where did you pull in once you entered the gate gas station?
Into a parking spot in the front of the store.
Why did you want that particular spot?
It's easy to get my truck in and out usually.
Did you see a red vehicle parked near you?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
near the spot you wanted to enter?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Can you describe that vehicle to the jury?
It was a red Dodge Durango.
Did you notice anyone inside?
There were people inside, yes, ma'am.
Can you describe any of the occupants that you saw at that time?
They were younger gentlemen.
So was there anyone in the parking spot between the red Dodge Durango and the spot you wanted to enter?
No, ma'am, there was not.
Okay. Did you actually pull into that spot?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Could you hear anything coming from the red Dodge Durango?
Yes, ma'am, I could.
What could you hear?
Loud music,
What kind of music did you notice?
just hip-hop music. It was A lot of bass to it.
Did you think it was too loud?
Yes, ma'am.
So what did you do?
Avoided the situation.
And how did you do that?
Parked further down.
Further down where?
On the opposite side of the entrance.
And then you left that parking spot to the right of the Durango empty?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And when you pulled into your other parking spot, could you still see the red Dodge Durango?
Yes, ma'am, I could.
Was there anyone with you on that night, Mr. Smith?
No, ma'am, there was not.
Did you get out of your vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you enter the store?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you buy?
A Coke fountain drink.
How long would you say it took you to go inside and get your fountain drink?
A few minutes.
Did you say anything to the clerk inside the gate gas station about the music you had heard coming from the red Dodge Durango?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you say to the clerk?
I asked her if they would turn it up. It was my favorite song.
And were you being facetious?
I was
Were you
being a
kidding?
smart aleck. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Let me show you, let me ask you, sir, did you go in and out of one set of doors, which could be considered the front doors to the gate gas station?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you aware, from having been there before, of any other customer entrance doors to that station?
No, ma'am.
Where are those doors located in relation to the original parking spot that you were going to try to take?
They would have been just to the right of the original parking spot I was going to take. Instead, they were to the left of where I parked.
All right. Let's show you State's Photo 5. And let me ask you, sir, can you show the jurors originally on this photo? And I'm not as close to a monitor as I probably need to be. Judge, can I ask Mr. Guy's assistance? Can you move this where I can?
Sure.
Yeah, it's just hard to see. No, it's the angle. Yes. All right, sir, can you show the jurors on State's Exhibit 5 the parking spot you originally wanted to pull into because of the largeness of your truck? All right. Can you show the jurors where you originally saw the red Dodge Durango with the loud music? And it's probably self-evident in the photo. Can you show them the door that you went into the store?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Did you exit that same door?
Yes, ma'am.
When you came out of the gate gas station, had anyone entered the original parking spot that you requested, the one right next to the sidewalk?
Yes, ma'am.
Not that you requested, I apologize, that you had originally wanted.
Yes, ma'am, there have been.
And what kind of a car did you notice in that spot?
Small, dark sedan.
Did you notice what color it was?
Black, I believe.
Did you notice any occupants in that car?
There was a driver,
Could you tell whether it was a male or a female?
a male,
Could you tell whether he was white or black?
white.
Now, from your vantage point, and I'm assuming when you walked out of the store, you were where that red X is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell the jurors about the lighting, both when you pulled in and the lighting when you came out?
It was adequate. It was nighttime, but it was well lit.
Are the lights depicted in the photo similar to the light that was there that night? This was taken at a later time, but do you remember whether all those lights were on?
It appears to be, yes, ma'am.
All right, sir. So did you have any trouble seeing those two cars, the red Dodge Durango and the black smaller sedan?
No, ma'am.
Did you pause on that sidewalk?
Yes, ma'am.
Were there any cars in between those two cars?
No, ma'am.
Was there enough room for there to be a car in between those two cars?
Not that I recall, no, ma'am.
Did you see any person standing in between the black sedan and the red Dodge Durango?
I did not.
And I may have asked you this, but let me ask you at this point. Was the Durango pulled in with the driver's, was it pulled in normally, or was it backed in?
It was pulled in normal.
So the passenger side of the red Durango, would that have been next to the black sedan?
Yes, ma'am, it would have been.
And the black sedan was pulled in normally.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, let me take you to State's Photo 6 and ask you, sir, is that another view of that parking area right in front of the door?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And where would you say you were as you looked at those two parking spots? Can you show on this photo where you were?
As I look at two parking spots.
When you came right out, when you exited the door, where did you pause?
Where did I stop at?
Yes, sir.
About right here.
Do you recall that white truck being there when you entered the store?
No, ma'am. He pulled in after everything had happened.
Okay. Now, from that vantage point, sir, could you clearly see what was going on in the two spots that appear vacant here, but that are to the, as you face the store, to the left of your red X?
I could see the two spots, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me ask you to put up State's Photo 10. All right, sir. And this is a different view, but would you please put an RD for where you saw the red Dodge Durango? Now, was the car centered in that spot as far as you could tell?
I believe he was in the white, where the white vehicle is parked at.
All right. And put just a BS for black sedan is what you described it as. All right. And is that the best you recall at this time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, tell the jurors, as you paused on that sidewalk, having exited the store, what you heard.
You're not going to talk to me that way.
Could you tell where that statement came from?
It came in the direction of the black sedan.
As though it came from the
From the black
sedan?
sedan.
Did you ever hear any of the occupants of the red Dodge Durango say anything?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever see anyone in the red Dodge Durango brandish any sort of weapon?
No, ma'am.
Once you heard that statement, well, let me back up. Can you tell the jurors in what tone that statement was made from the black sedan?
It was yelled or very loud.
Okay. Did you then focus your attention more sharply on what was going on?
I turned around quickly to see what was going on, yes, ma'am.
And at that point, did you ever see anyone in the red car get out on the passenger side?
I did not, no, ma'am.
Did you ever see anyone get out on the driver's side?
No, ma'am, I did
Did
not.
you ever see a door open?
I did not, no, ma'am.
Did you ever see anyone on the passenger side of the red Durango put their hand or any object through an open window?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
At that point, could you hear any loud music?
I didn't notice any, no, ma'am.
Okay. Did you ever see any sort of a cylindrical object coming out of the red Dodge Durango?
No, ma'am.
Okay. What did you see next?
When I turned around, I saw the pistol in the area just in front of where the radio would be in the black sedan.
Were you looking through the windshield?
I was looking through the passenger window, yes, ma'am.
And was there light flowing enough into the black sedan for you to be able to see that?
I could see it was a pistol, yes, ma'am.
All right. And could you tell anything else about the pistol at that time?
It was a large pistol, probably a 9mm or a 40 or a 38. It was a large pistol.
At that point, was there anyone in the passenger seat of the black sedan?
No, ma'am, there was not.
What happened then?
The pistol was pulled around and shots were fired.
Okay. Did you see the person in the driver's seat of the black sedan aim that weapon?
I saw him pull around, and when he did, it blocked the view, but the bullets came out.
At that point, were you focused in even more?
When I saw the pistol, my whole focus was on the pistol.
All right. What did the driver of the Durango do?
Backed out and took off around the corner towards Southside Boulevard.
From your vantage point, still on that sidewalk, could you see if any of the shots hit that red Durango?
Yes, ma'am.
Did the driver of the black sedan continue shooting after the first volley of shots?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
3 to 4.
Did you remain on that sidewalk?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you concerned?
Very.
What did you see the shooter do then?
After the second round of shots,
Yes, sir.
he got back in the car. A lady came out and he said, "Get in the car, get in the car." And they backed out and they left.
Can you describe the person any more than saying it was a lady?
It was a lady,
White or black?
white lady. Yes, ma'am.
And did you see her get into the black car?
Yes, ma'am, she did.
What did the driver of that black sedan do at that point?
Backed out and took off towards Southside Boulevard also.
All right. Could you tell which way they actually went on Southside Boulevard?
No, no, ma'am. As soon as they went around the corner, the exit to Southside Boulevard is further down out of sight.
All right. Let me show you a photo states 125 in evidence and ask you, sir, does states 125 resemble the black sedan that you saw that evening from which the driver was firing shots?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Did you ever see the red Durango return to the Gate gas station?
Yes, ma'am, it did.
Did you ever see this black sedan return to the Gate gas station?
No, ma'am, it did not.
How long were you there after you saw the black sedan leave?
I was there for a while, for a long time.
You
Hours.
stayed to talk with police?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
So in all of the time that you were there, did you ever see the black sedan return?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Did you see the red Durango return?
Yes, ma'am.
And at what point did you see it return?
It was just a few minutes later, it came back and it parked a little few spaces further down.
Did you ever speak to the occupants of the red Durango when they returned?
No, ma'am, nothing more. They were in we all were doing our testimony. It was a hey, that's about the extent of it.
Did you ever see any weapons on any of those young men in that Dodge Durango?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Did you ever see any weapons on the ground?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Did you ever see any of those young men leave that area once they pulled back into the station and go around behind the Gate gas station?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Did they also all remain at the scene while the police were processing the scene?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
I'm going to ask you, sir, if you will step down. May he step down from the stand, Judge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you if you could, and Mr. Guy, if I could just, I'm going to ask you to come over here and just assume for a moment, I need you to face the jury and face the court reporter so they can hear you. Do you want him to hold a microphone, or is he okay right now?
He needs a microphone. We
Okay.
got one coming.
Thank you.
And let me get out of the way. And if you can tell the jurors, sir, so they can see distance, which is not easy to see in the photos, show them approximately where you were on the sidewalk. If that area is the sidewalk, when you first came out of the doors, if this table is the doors, how far out did you get?
Probably in this area.
All right. And then so the doors, this would have been to your back.
Yes, ma'am, there's also an overhang too that goes to the sidewalk. But if the doors are that wall there, there's the overhang and then the parking spaces start.
And then from where you're standing, just point to some space in the courtroom as to how close you were to the driver or the black sedan in which you saw the driver shooting.
He was inside the wall where the juror stands at. He was,
Okay.
if you would have stepped this way about 4 steps in this area right here, right in there. Yes,
So
ma'am.
you're telling the jurors from where you were on the sidewalk to where the car was is how close you were to seeing what was going on?
That's where the driver was sitting in the seat in that
All right.
area there.
And the red Durango would have been over here?
Other side, behind the jurors.
Okay, over
Yes, ma'am.
here.
The other way, yes, ma'am.
All right. Would you have seen someone who was at least 5 feet 10 inches tall if they had been standing up in between those two cars?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Sustained.
Did you see anyone head above those cars or above either of the doors of the red Durango?
I did not know, ma'am.
All right, let me show you one more item that's marked into evidence. If you'll stay right there. And I'm showing you states 171 in evidence, sir. Did you ever see anyone wearing this hat lean their head out of that red Durango or get out of that red Durango?
No, ma'am.
Would you have noticed a hat like this?
It's pretty obvious, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You can resume the stand. Sir, did you realize when you went into the Gate gas station that there's a video surveillance that runs?
I did, but most stores have them, yes, ma'am.
Have you reviewed that since the night of this incident?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you see yourself on the surveillance that the state showed you that we marked as states 168 into evidence?
I did see it, yes,
And
ma'am.
you did review that carefully at some point prior to coming here today, and were you able to see yourself clearly on the tape?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
All right, then what I'm going to do is ask that that video be published at this time, Your Honor, states 168. And the only thing I want you to do is when you see yourself on the video, tell the jurors that's you.
Yes, ma'am.
And Judge, is it coming up full screen on everybody's screen? Can we check? On the
Nothing
juror's
yet.
screen? Okay.
Well, mine's blue. Is yours blue?
Yes, sir, it is.
Did the
Everything
photos
blue
come
over there?
up, but did the photos come up full
Not
screen?
yet. Oh, the photos did, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can you see that, ladies and gentlemen?
That's me.
All right, sir. And the timestamp on the gate video that's entered as states 168 says 7:38:04 p.m. Does that approximate what you recall as being the time that you entered the store?
Yes, ma'am.
And within how many minutes or seconds of that would you estimate the shooting took place?
Within 3 to 5 minutes.
All right. And once you saw the Durango pull out after shots were being fired, can you narrow down the time as to when it returned to the gate gas station?
Approximately 5 minutes after it happened.
You can keep going. Once you exited the store as depicted in this video, did you ever re-enter the store?
No, ma'am, I did not.
And then you paused on the sidewalk, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that when everything you've described to the jury happened
Yes.
outside the gate gas station?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
May I have just a moment with co-counsel, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
That's all. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Abel?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Smith.
Hey, how you doing?
Fine, thank you, sir. Now, when you pulled into that gate gas station and you first noticed that red SUV, the passenger windows, and I mean both passenger windows, both front and back, those were down.
Yes, ma'am.
Isn't that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that would be, to clarify, the front passenger and the back passenger on the right side of the car.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you saw the dark sedan, as you described it, pull in, isn't it true to say that both of the cars were pulled in equally?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. There wasn't one car way behind the other.
Didn't appear to be, no, ma'am.
Okay. They were both pulled in to what you would call the stop or the curb stop?
Curb stop, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So their doors would have been side by side,
Should be, yes, ma'am.
and their noses are equal,
Yes, ma'am.
just like a normal person would park.
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing odd or skewed or angled or one way back or one way forward.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you had testified that you walked out of the gate station and you paused on the sidewalk.
Yes, ma'am.
Would it be safe to say at that point that you're not paying any attention to what's going on with the Durango or the dark sedan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because nothing had drawn your attention to it.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
And you're on your way to your truck?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you would be walking, your intent would be to walk away from where the Durango and the Jetta were?
I'd walked straight down the sidewalk and I was on the opposite side of where they were.
Okay, and you would have taken a left to go to your truck,
Walking through the little grass area, yes, ma'am.
away from the Durango and the Joe.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And during all of that time, you weren't paying attention to the Durango, so you don't know if anyone got in or out of that Durango.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct? Okay. Now, at some point, you said that it drew your attention to the dark sedan, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wouldn't it be safe to say also, again, at that point, you have no idea what's going on in the red SUV?
I did not pay attention.
Okay, and that's because you are focused on the pistol that you see.
As soon as I heard the voice, I looked around and I saw the pistol, and the minute I saw the pistol, my whole attention stayed on that,
And your attention stayed on that pistol 100% the entire time?
to make sure it wasn't pointed at me.
Absolutely. You're not looking at that red SUV.
No, ma'am, you're
You're
right.
not looking to see if anybody's getting out of that red SUV.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, after the shooting occurred, the gentleman in the dark sedan, when he asked what you described as his lady friend, there was panic in his voice. Isn't that correct?
He said several times, "Get in the car, get in the car."
Okay, and he was panicked.
He seemed in a hurry, yes, ma'am.
Okay, but wouldn't it be correct to say there was panic in his voice?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then the red SUV, it also left, correct? We
Yes,
talked
ma'am.
about that. Okay, isn't it true, sir, that that from your perspective, that red SUV was gone 5 to 10 minutes?
It was gone, yes, ma'am. 5 minutes at least, yes, ma'am.
Okay, up to 10 minutes.
It could be, yes, ma'am.
And you lost sight of them during that time?
I'm sorry, ma'am.
You lost sight of that red SUV during that time?
Yes,
during
ma'am.
that 5 to 10 minutes?
As soon as it goes around the corner, you don't see that
don't
or
see
the
it.
black car, yes, ma'am.
So for that 5 to 10 minutes that red SUV is gone, you don't know what the occupants of that car did?
No, ma'am.
You don't know if they threw anything out of the car?
No, ma'am.
You don't know if anyone got out of the car?
No, ma'am.
When that red SUV returned, it didn't park in the same spot that it was in before. Is that right?
Correct, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Before the shooting, it was parked second or third spot from the door.
Yes, ma'am.
When it returned to the scene, it actually parked farther away from the door.
It's probably sixth spot, somewhere in that range.
Okay. All the way down by the bushes.
Go towards the bushes, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And would you agree, sir, that when the red SUV returned, it parked in an area that's actually not as well lit as where it was originally parked?
It's still the outside of the store and it's still lit,
Sure.
but there may be less lighting there, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it didn't come back and park right next to the door or right next to the gas pumps where more people were.
No, ma'am, it did not.
It parked at the very end, still at the gate gas station, but at the very end of those spots to the left of the door.
Yes, ma'am. Not quite to the end, but towards the end, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then once that red SUV returned, again, sir, you can't tell this jury what the occupants of that car did at that point.
Once they return,
Right.
I mean, I saw them once they returned
And I understand you saw them
in the car, in the
in
vehicle.
the car. But was there a lot of chaos going on at that point?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, people are running back and forth.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. It's a chaotic scene, right?
It was, yes, ma'am.
And you weren't exactly focused on every detail of the boys in that car and what they did once they returned.
Not really, no, ma'am.
Now, once the police arrived, were you placed inside the gate gas station?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were in there with several other people,
There was 10 to 12 people, probably somewhere in that range, yes, ma'am.
including the boys in the car.
Yes, ma'am.
None of you all were separated.
No, ma'am.
And in fact, when you were in there, wouldn't it be safe to say, sir, that not necessarily you, but a lot of people were talking on their phones? Texting on their phones?
There was phone use, yes, ma'am.
Using their cell phones?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Corey?
Yes, sir. Sir, I'm going to show you an exhibit, just 1 second. Say it's Exhibit 9, right, photo 9.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And so it's still within 1 car of where you can still see the front door of the gate gas station, correct?
It was on, I think, the fifth or probably the sixth parking space away from the edge.
Right in front of the store.
Yes, ma'am.
And are you familiar with whether or not there is an entire strip mall just on the other side of the gate gas station where the Durango had originally?
Yes, ma'am.
And are there hundreds of parking spots over there they could pull into?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this parking spot very close to where you had seen it the first time?
It's, yes, ma'am, probably 3 to 4 spaces down. Yes, ma'am.
From your observations, could the chaos you described to defense counsel have been caused by the fact that a young 17-year-old man was pulled out and died on the ground right there?
After the gunshots, everyone was panicked. Everyone was, things were crazy. So, yes, ma'am.
And when you gave your best estimate with regard to when the Durangos pulled back in, was that based on observations of the timestamps on the videos, things from the police reports or other witnesses, or is that your best estimate?
Just my best estimate. Yes, ma'am.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
May he be excused?
He may.
Ms. Abel, may he be excused?
Your Honor, may I ask one additional question?
Let's not make a habit of this.
Yes, sir. Sir, Ms. Corey just asked you about the adjacent parking lot. You are familiar with that?
Where the strip mall's at? Yes, ma'am.
And there are businesses, bushes, trees, a lot going on over there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
May he be excused?
He may, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir, you're excused.
Thank you, sir.
State's next witness.
State calls Andrew Williams